Hey, it's Chris. Let's do the roundup. Let's do it. Big games, big names, money thrown around. Upcoming this week as well, we are venturing into the 1st of October. I will hopefully have a couple videos out. I have one game that is launching this week that I will be covering. We'll have maybe another news video as well. And then maybe my Essen list and the October crowdfunding games to know. And spoilers on this one. This is perhaps the longest crowdfunding upcoming video I have ever done. Because I kid you not, there are names from almost every big company on the crowdfunding side of things that you can think of that is launching. It's absolutely insane. Expansions for base games, and above more than anything else, I felt a little bit nauseous going through the list and the similarities of like literally 4 or 5 open world sandbox adventure type crawl games. So take your pick. If that's your thing this month, holy cow. But at the same time, reading a lot of the descriptions as you're going into this with not a lot of details at this point prior to the launch, you can't tell the difference. Let's go. This is the dichotomy of 2 out-of-print games week, if you will. On one hand, we have Container. On the other hand, we have Dogs of War. And it's very interesting, as I talked about earlier in this year with several of these other out-of-print games that have come back, like Camp Grizzly, to see how much of it is just the squeaky wheel getting the grease in terms of people clamoring and shouting their rooftop lungs all over the place, or is it just actually desired? And a lot of people are willing to chill it out. But on the former, in terms of Container, it looks like, I would assume the vast majority of this money is going towards Container and not Gruntz and Triangulation. But you can tell me if I'm wrong. Container. It's an economic with a closed economy based money system where you are literally buying warehouses, buying containers, buying goods, shipping them to an island to sell them, selling them to other people, and getting them to buy things from you, because otherwise if you don't, you're going to go into debt, and it's a very brutal economy based game. And again, it's not one that I have actually played. Supply, demand, and trade. Easy to learn. The nuances of the individual actions themselves are incredibly straightforward. But do you like this level of cutthroat, group-dependent, meta-dynamic style 3 to 5 player game? Now, 60 minutes, that's actually shocking to me, because again, I'm not as familiar with this game, but you can play this in 60 minutes, and All Play does a really fantastic job on components, and these look solid. So I can't really complain. And to be able to get this out-of-print game for the base game of $39, they stay true to their price point, consistency, we'll say, from other campaigns that they have put out in the past 32 of them. You want a little expansion to give you fan favorite modules that are still available in these ways of offering like a different currency and trucks, and I forget the third one, but that's what they've got going on. And everyone else has covered this game already previously, right? Shut Up and Sit Down are on here. You don't need to listen to me. Game Boy Geek's got a couple videos and quotes on it as well. You're constructing, you're buying, you're sending your goods to the harbor, you're sailing them off to the island, which is the only place you can actually sell them. Deluxe components, and you know what? I actually like this. Now, it looks kind of weird because you can see it going between plastic and metal here, and that's kind of where I think the price increase is more significant. But I guess, do you really feel like you want metal in that way? It's going to be more, so over double the price. Here's the expansion, loans. That was the other one. Luxury, as in the luxury container. Sorry, not new currency. But then trucking as well, because you actually have to truck them from factories to the warehouse. In the base game, you don't have to. They just kind of get there themselves safely. So it's a metagame. Bluffing and buy, supply, and demand. Again, video. Gruntz, though. Gruntz is a strategic war game-esque skirmish where you either move to and deploy one, deploy to and move one. You get to customize your little tank things, though, because they have 3 different tops that you can put on them when you are deploying them, depending on if you want a mobile spawn point, anti-aircraft, or even just the regular tank component. So the Grunts, though, and why you need them is that they are the only ones that can control the point scoring places in the middle of the board. And if you hold at least 2 of them, you get a point. If you hold all 3, you get 2 points. First one to 3 points is the winner. That's it. That's the whole game right there. Skirmish, no luck, all skill. So no dice rolls either. And last but not least, Triangulation is a spin-off of Codenames, and it's just a nice little side twist if you prefer, because you still give the clues, but the first 2 clues are given to everybody, including the opposite team, and then the opposite team gets to guess. But if they can't guess it, you then give a 3rd clue to your team so that they can wrap it all together, tie it up in a bow, and get it because you were vague enough on the first 2 not to give it away in the first place. 3 to 8 players, 15 minutes per game. Yeah, there you go. That's it. That's everything. And I guess if you buy at the higher levels here, you get this little wooden token thing wherever that disappeared to, and it gets you one of their free mini games upcoming. There you go. It's a really good price for all 3 games, except if you're metal blinging it out and you're going to pay a hell of a lot of a premium, but give that a look-see. Then Cyberpunk Legends, $720,000, which answers the question to me, do people care about the game or do people care really about the cyberpunk aspect of things because it really prints money? And I would lean towards the latter because I'm really interested to see what the read of this later is going to be, because it reminds me very much of The Witcher Path of Destiny, because it's so light in what it appears, at least dynamically, mechanistically, on the page and with the rule book. And I don't say that as a bad thing, but I say that that was the big thing with The Witcher. Like, The Witcher Path of Destiny, people went in and said, oh, this is a really cool Witcher game. Oh, this is actually just kind of do skill checks and make a decision based off of this tableau you're kind of making. And does it really need to be The Witcher? And this is really a weird mechanic to throw in with miniatures. So not good or bad game, but what you got and what you thought, or what you got and what you wanted, or what you got because you weren't paying attention on crowdfunding is more of the issue. And this is definitely co-op. It's definitely card-based. And I'm emphasizing both of those because it takes more of a game, the gang style spin to Cyberpunk, because that's what I think when I think of Cyberpunk. When I think of Cyberpunk, I think of poker. Wait. No, I don't usually. But that's what you're got going on, because what you do is you go around and reveal an event card from the first player, and then after that first player card gets revealed, then oftentimes you have an obstacle or an enemy that you have to deal with, and it tells you what sort of combination of cards you can have in there that needs either an icon and or a poker hand. And if you do that, then you total up the damage, because that's like the precursor to doing the damage in the first place. And you total up the damage and you need to knock the obstacle out. But you do this by playing one card around the table. One person plays a card, another person plays the second, the third, the fourth, and as you would expect with poker, usually a max of 5 cards. Although, as you can see in the upper left-hand corner, that's also going to give you iconography in the terms of the suits, because that's also playing into the suits of poker as well. You notice that you can have multiple suits on a card. You can even have more than one of the same suit on a card. So they say, even in the rule book as the example, that you could have a flush with 2 cards. So I don't know why the page didn't load the full thing the first time, but here we go with the full page. Give it a look, I guess. But this is a lot of money for that mechanical approach. All the add-on packs, the alternate player decks is going to cost you $130. $75 for this card-driven aspect of things, it probably isn't a horrible price, albeit. So, yeah, I guess the other thing that's just really not clear to me, is that when it says finding clues, they're like, well, you don't actually have to piece the puzzles together. And they don't really give you any actual answers to the puzzles on the rule book in terms of what it's actually going to be doing past this poker style of things. And so you're just going to have to keep them nearby and be able to use them. So I don't really know how that plays in. I don't really know how the exploration of the cities is going to play in. So, I mean, it sounds interesting. 10 cards of a different exclusive pack, 10 cards there, 10 cards there, and then 10 cards for hard mode. Okay. Build your own booster boxes. It's just a box of cards they've been working on that haven't passed the QA yet. because a lot of the cards may not have art or be balanced or have, official versions. So just go ahead and get it. That's weird. The thing I'll say at the end here is I feel like this could have been any theme. I'm not seeing the thematic tie-in in that sense. So again, if this was not Cyberpunk, would you even be considering this from a first-time crowdfunding company from the Night Crew Games? Not saying anything bad about them, but just food for thought. Inside Up is giving us Kalypso here with nearly $200,000. And if you're backing, you get little miniatures. On my tile laying game? Okay. So, cozy strategy. So, think your Animal Crossing meets Race to the Raft, stuck in the sea. You're going to be tile laying to create your board by drafting it from the vortex, simultaneously placing it, triggering combos and actions, and tackling community-based objectives during the round in order to win over 4 rounds worth of time using those various things that you're going to be building, including monuments, buildings, gardens, fish, and those objectives I mentioned in order to score the most points. Premium components, holy cow, double the price for the Kickstarter upgrades, including a game tray organizer, 3D barrels and life preservers, acrylic boats, and more. That seems a little excessive. And I love this as a tile layer. I love the rescuing, the enduring, the combo laying, and leaving gaps in order to actually do things to create intriguing spaces. Now, the other weird thing is that it mentions right here that I did not see up further, solo, competitive, and cooperative, and they're not just variants. I worry, though, that will they all do as equally as you want? And, that's why it's a little bit pricier, right? It's magnetic. Okay. Magnetic. And here they give you the full list of things that are going to be there. Deluxe tray, I don't know, right? Like tile layers with a deluxe tray, just throw them all in the box and dump them out. That's going to make people mad in the comment section. Use the ocean boards separately for competitive or combine them into a large ocean. I guess looking at this and looking at how to play, would the cooperative be more of a limited information? Is it like a kumbaya, hold your hand, or everybody does their own individual same thing? So I feel like it's the latter, but there you go. Gives you a little bit more of the detail, a little bit of more of what the difference is here between the modes, timed objectives, instant rewards, victory points from construction, and then work together to keep the whole thing sheltered and fed, also keeping up with survivors to unlock abilities and build the settlement overall before time runs out. I think this has potential. I'm really interested, but maybe wait and see. Oh, look, a second little game thrown in there. Danger, the high voltage card game, trick-taking, where scoring points is just the beginning, but also the victory condition. You have to keep them, though, is what it says. And the weird thing that this does is after you draft and play, is that the ones that are basically in runs next to each other cancel each other out, and then you take the lowest card of each suit and look at the black number on it, and that is the victory points that you're getting. Interesting. Now, 2 to 5 players, but at the higher count, maybe a team mode, or is that separate? Looks separate. Okay, I mean, there you go. That's the latest from Inside Up. All of the smarter people are talking about it already. And so if you're a fan of tile layers a little bit differently, give this one a look. I just thought I'd throw this in there. Grimdark is over on GameFound. It's got $300,000, right? 2-player miniature skirmish style of things. The largest miniature war game on Patreon. Oh, Patreon folks are willing to throw money at miniatures and painting and all sorts of stuff like that. Speaking of that, mid-video plug, I have a Patreon if you'd like to hit me up there. So that'd be super awesome. Actually, I owe them some content as well. So that's an incentive for you guys to do that as well. Or if you want to do me on YouTube, or I need to finish my Ko-fi page. Anyway, coffee page, whatever it is, right? Tons of miniatures and tons of content. What is the, out of curiosity, the, dog. Yeah, that's not surprising though. I guess pseudo entry point for $100 that probably can't get you enough to actually play. Just kidding. It's probably just enough to get in, but not to give you as much as you'd really like. So realistically, it's going to cost you $200, but I thought I'd just throw it in there for the hell of it. One that I had hands on was Azure and Moytura, the next in the two-player mythology style Bite Wings games. And Moytura, imagine that if The King is Dead was a two-player game only and then had a third-player AI system that had a bunch of asymmetry. And then Azure is an abstract with a different way of capturing as well as placing your tiles on the spots in order to win, in a very different economy style of things. You're placing your troops down based on the tiles that you were grabbing from the left side of the board, if we can find a picture of that, because each of these gods is going to allow you to deploy them differently, and it's going to have a cost the higher up you go in sort of a century style vibe. And then the whole board shifts down. Why you might want to pay the higher cost at the top is not that you're necessarily getting more actions immediately, but it unlocks additional troops that are then played because you've permanently put one of your markers in that slot, indicating that now you get those additional troops along with the ones that are next to the slots that you place it from, which also correspondingly go up the higher the cost in the first place. The disruption of the enemy, though, is going to be very important as you are competing against the enemy as well as the other player, because oftentimes how they spawn will be directly reflective of the basically branching out that they do. And so the more you can stymie that or cut it off or separate it out into smaller chunks, it will make your life easier as you go. And that's kind of everything I said right there. Only more. You play it only over 10 rounds, and after rounds 5 and 10, you score an area control style vibe with the points listed in that shaded color. They said versus my video and the post-production that the roads are also separating, but the roads as well as the separations of these areas is going to be more well defined. And I think we have plenty of asymmetry in terms of how the AI is going to interact with you with the 3 different AI factions that are going to be present, because on the AI turn, as you go along, player, AI, player, AI, as the round structure, the AI then flips up a card randomly to determine which of the 3 it's going to do in which manner. So, rulebook is really easy and straightforward, as always with Bitewing, solid, even from the get-go. More enemy clans, more expansions, and additional god you can go up against. Personally speaking, though, Azure is probably one of my favorite Bitewing games, maybe after only Zoo Vedas at this point, because all you do is spend your cards in one of the 4 colors to match the tile that you want to put your token on. However many blessings total are down there is how many cards you have to spend, unless if you have orthogonal pieces that already are in line with it and not blocked by line of sight. And that reduces the cost by each one that is in that line of sight in the first place. So you are trying to strategically place down as many as you can in order to win, to get the most points at the end by 25, because these blessings will either give you more cards or victory points. But each of the 4 elemental creatures in each of these areas also can give you points or additional bonuses in that way, if you are matching your stones in some way particular to them. 2 of them require a certain number, or the most, more than your opponent, to be in line with them orthogonally. Then also, one of them is just who has the most in the red area. The last one, the brown or the dark whatever color that is over there, is the one that has the most of these little fish circling the bonus rewards and the costs in the middle. And those are in all 4 quadrants. Now, the expansion offers another 5th different color, as well as different sized boards to make things completely, well, just crazy asymmetric. And you know me, I love abstracts. So this is one of my favorite ones that I've seen in a while. There's the Yellow Dragon, the double-sided large boards. And again, they're double-sided with different placements of these creature tokens. And so the inline or the setup is going to be completely different every time you do it. And there you can see an example of what the large and the small boards looks like. You win 25 points, or you lose if you can't play, if you run out of resources in order to generate that. It's difficult, but it can happen. There's me! And there's my quote. See, I stand by that quote. And you can get some of their previous Iliad and Ecor, which, again, I'm a big fan of both of those as well. Although, again, like, I would say Iliad is really freaking sweet, being the tiles and the flipping, but Ecor probably ended up surprising me in just the crazy asymmetry manipulation. So, ooh, that got Dice Tower Seal of Excellence. See? Boom. Your boy calls his shot on the crowdfunding, and then other people down the line, I'm not just a complete motherfucking shill. I actually know a good game when I see it. I know that's a shock to a lot of my viewers, but it is what it is. Nick, thanks for sending them to me. I love talking about them. Dogs of War, $98,000. This goes back to what I was saying with Container, right? This has been an acclaimed game. People love it, but I guess the question is, are you willing to support it? And that's kind of where I look at this, and we'll just skip straight down to the pledge levels, right? Because the $50 pledge level here gets you alt art player screens and a bonus gift. Okay, a bonus gift, which is a $15 A to Z gift card. Then the $75 one does the same. And I have to feel like that's intentional, not saying it's a $15 Play to Z gift card, which is cool in a way. But if you think about it, I'd rather pay $15 less and not have the gift card, if you will, right? It's like when work says, hey, congrats on being an employee for another year, and here's a third water bottle that you've gotten in the past 5 years. Like, just put $5 or $10 on my check instead, and I'd be happier with that than another water bottle that's kind of low quality and not really great to use in the first place. So that's what I wonder with this, because I'm looking at this and going, okay, great game, right? It's, you know, more of your worker placement style with a new addition, new rules, new art. And I love it. And Shut Up and Sit Down's select line, like the Arcane Wonders Dice Tower situation, because you're going to be gathering your armies, treacherously competing and backstabbing your opponents, and not doing 4 rounds though, 3 rounds. The big problem I have with this page though is that there's no rulebook. Like, you get this brief gameplay update situation, 4 rounds to 3, mercenary captains giving you additional factions to control, new tactical decisions to go along with that. Okay, swings of power that were near impossible are going to be more powerful and passable. So player powers have been reworked. Okay, I mean, that's fantastic. But this is an old review. This is the old review. Has anybody besides maybe Shut Up and Sit Down played the new game? Like, if I was looking at this as a previous owner, as someone that was enticed by this previously, where is the concrete information of why you should get this edition? Why are these changes better, right? Like, at some point, you know, I don't always align with Shut Up and Sit Down in my tastes, but I appreciate their insight into these games. But because my tastes don't align, I need to see more of this. I need to see some gameplay. I want to see the flow. I want to see the rulebook changes with some of those powers. And on the page, there's none of that. And only if you go over to update 3 do you see that the rulebook is available to preview. This is a rough draft rulebook here, so take it for what you will. If you're looking at this as someone who's new to the hobby or newer to the hobby, right? Like Shut Up and Sit Down's recommendation, but why? I guess what I'm saying is, going back to this page, if you're not familiar with this game, if you're not familiar with this at all, there is nothing to say what this game actually is on the page, right? There are quotes that tell you about the game. It's not about winning, it's a cracking, the battles and powers, leave the table, epic story, it's 5-star. Do you know any of the mechanics based off of that? Do you get any of the mechanics from this? That's the problem, is you don't. You get some maybe smattering glancing that, well, we've got player screens and tactics cards and standees, and how do the captains and the soldiers actually interact? Why am I putting them where on the map? What is going on apart from that there's war and trophies and fame and fortune? So I look at this and I go, there needs to be more enticement. This is resting a little bit on the laurels of Dogs of War and the Shut Up and Sit Down recommendation in that way. than truly showing people the game. Let the game entice people. That's why people back things oftentimes. And if we go pull up the rule book here, it gives you the gist of the action phase, right? Playing a tactics card, placing a soldier into one of your captains, place it on a battlefield space, gain those rewards, move up the tracker on the supported house, the number of spaces indicated, normal placements or higher player count placements depending on what you're doing. These are the rewards that you're going to be getting as you go along. Victory points, influence, tactics cards, coins, adjusting the battle track depending on what you're putting down. So it's then going back to this after the action phase style of the outcome phase where you figure out who had their victory tracker up higher. The winner gets their victory points, more in later rounds. You supported them, you get more. You put back, you rinse, and you repeat. So after 3 years, you do this. But again, I just would love to see some actual mechanics, some new hands-on. How does this compare on the page? And so I'm willing to look at this. This is a game I personally have never played. I'm intrigued enough by it, though, to have it on my wish list now. But again, if you don't know, what do you do? Throw out a little shout out to, speaking of other people I know, throwing a shout out to Brother Ming, Genshin Dice Collection Volume 2. Gemstone Dice, right? Man, if I could play a role-playing game more consistently, my kids have actually shown a tiny, minute amount of interest. I would think about picking these up. But it's hard, too, when you got like the, $6 ones from Amazon or your local game shop that look like kind of similar and are that much, too. So, ooh, those are nice. I like that blue sandstone. Ming, if you have any of those blue sandstones sitting around after this, I'm hitting you up in the Discord section. So, anyway, that's all I got. So, I'm a weeb, too. There you go. You know what? It's Shogi, right? It's the great, great game of Shogi. Instead of the actual Japanese symbols on there that I can't, as a Westerner, ever have any idea of interpreting, we now just have different colored cats. So if you've ever wanted to play Shogi and you love cats, well, now is your opportunity, right? There you go. I'm leaving it at that before I get myself in trouble. Bagged and boarded, 50 grand. With a bunch of heroes that you are going to slowly display, gather powers for, collect the comics of in order to Feldian score at the end. These comics will come in forms of loose, bagged, unbagged, autographed, and you're going to be utilizing your actions on a round-by-round basis based on how much time it takes you to do each action or how much time you want to allocate to said actions in the first place during each day, i.e. round, that you have available to you. And you will have 12 of those hours or round cubes in order to allocate to the various actions that you are able to do on a turn-by-turn basis. These scoring cards, the superpowers, and the tokens are all going to be aspects that you're going to be accumulating along the way in order to buy these comics, sell these comics, and collect them to end up with the most at the end. Now, along with this, as I pull this up, you can see that not only are you going to have many of these actions, but you can boost the actions on an individual basis to make them stronger as you're utilizing them. You're going to be trying to set collect as well as display them in order to score those points. And that's kind of what you're getting. More cards, more points. And as you're doing these actions, like I mentioned, it gives you this overview of where you can allocate them, what you're going to be doing, either chores around the house, going to the store to buy them, drawing, boosting, and earning money in the various ways. Attending the conventions to get sneak previews of said comics, and then the comic cards themselves, as you, well, have different issues containing comments along the way as well. So, indie game, give it a look-see. Queen is allowing you to pre-order or ship some of these to you if you really want to, and it's about 2/3 to 1/3 right now in terms of who's doing what. But if any of these Queen's 7 upcoming releases look good to you, well, you can get them. I'm leaving it there because I've covered all of these previously in other shapes, varieties, and forms. Kickstarter, stop doing that. Then Super Team, tactical football game, almost funded, 3/4 of the way there. And what you're getting is a little bit of players on the field utilizing based hex distances and then deciding with dice rolls whether or not your actions are going to be completed, giving your opponent ways to mitigate and deal with that, as well as you play 1 to 3 cards on your turn in order to take these actions. But after your players move, they become exhausted and they fall down. You have to actually put them down. And so on your turn, then you refresh them in order to move them. Movement is based on how many spaces you can potentially move. But if you're in or out of a space that is next to an opponent, your opponent immediately stops you from moving any further. Passes, dribbles, and things along those lines are dependent on the distance then needed to roll based on the successes or not that you're getting. But at the beginning of the game, you can allocate cubes to each of your stats, i.e. the coaches, meaning you get to roll additional dice for each of those actions as you're allocating those chains. The tricky part is it's like, okay, well, you can use a bunch of stuff and then luck. Okay. And then basically you get a little bit of why you're backing, a little bit of deluxifications maybe that's not available. The tactics cards that I mentioned in terms of the passing and the movements and the hex-based situation that I mentioned. So everything is there. Solo mode, AI mode that you can go up against, and custom meeples along with all of the dice and tactics cards that you would ever love to know. Gold foil and metal coins, morale coins, because if your player is exhausted and you want to move them again, you actually have to spend a morale. There you go. That is everything. Jersey stickers and a whole bunch of money to spend. So again, it's doing something different. That is that coach element that I talked about, allocation at the beginning of the game. The movements via the command cards, the rolling to see if your actions are successful or not. Scoring as well. Moving your goalie side to side makes the action more difficult, potentially if you guess the right way. Things like that are going to be included. So everything else that you can see, tons of preview videos, tons of content here, and well, we'll see if they end up funding before it ends. That's Wizard! $15,000. It is almost an unlimited replayability. I don't know, it looks like just not quite as good a version of Wizards of Grimoire to me, but it uses a little bit of deck construction because essentially before the game you choose a certain number of these spell cards that then you can see in the blue indicates how much power that is your main spell casting resource that you want to allocate. The why you may do more is oftentimes that is related to the damage you are doing to your opponent as you try and whittle their health down to 0 to win. However, the lower spell's power goes first, and it's not just do damage, and so there's a lot of other mitigation as well as factors that you're going to be playing with these spell cards. Play, effect, special, you simultaneously select and then flip over, and then allocate before you flip over on your little die how much power that you are going to put into that. So an expansion, give 40 extra cards with the Arcana expansion. And if you really want to pay a ton of extra money as well, you can get a binder to hold all those cards and neoprene mats to deluxify it out. I mean, it looks like something quaint. I'd be more than willing to try it, but I kind of already like Wizards of Grimoire in this realm, so I guess I would just say, would I like one or the other, but we'll see. And what is the price point here out of curiosity? $79 for that and $35 for the base game. So there you go. Base on board, Ultimate Head-to-Head Baseball Showdown. $22,000. And you're going, Chris, another baseball game? Ooh, I'm interested. Hold your horses. We got to talk about this one because it's got this 3D stadium as both part of the game that you have to buy. And it is almost completely dice luck dependent. So how do you feel about that? To mimic truly the baseball statistics of, you know, getting a hit less than 30% of the time and getting out even the majority of the time that you make contact with the ball in the first place. Now, the problem is if you're looking at the Kickstarter exclusive here and you didn't get one of the super early birds for $96, it's going to cost you $119 because you're getting everything there no matter what. And the game starts off with rolling the white die to see if you get a ball or a strike or even make contact or swing and the miss or foul. And then if you do make contact and don't strike out, then you have to roll the yellow die, which indicates what you do. And that's where that 70% of the time you're going to get out, but sometimes it may advance runners. And so that's where the different abbreviations come in on the side of the die. And then if you get a hit, miraculously. Then you roll the blue die to see kind of what hit it is, and again, what it does in that way. That's where the attack and the defense cards come in, though, to mitigate some of that chance or to extenuating circumstance it even further. You can use, depending on whether you are fielding or hitting, depending on which part of the inning it is. That's what we've got going on. That is the game. There is a brief overview of this video to give you more insight basically about what I just showed you, because the page isn't going to give you a whole lot else in terms of what that is. The strategies and the particular situations that I mentioned are illustrated here. Pickoffs, hit by pitch, sacrifice bunts, caught stealing home, things like that that are going to change the dynamics more than just the actual dice play. So there you go. That is the game. But it's expensive for what it is, and I'm not sure I need the 3D, but they're going with it, and they're getting the support, so people must like it. We'll cover this one really quickly. The Tenor. It's got 10 little light card games. I'm not going to give you the details of all of them. Party in the hizzy, play cards until you violate the rules, and then that person's out, last one standing wins. Owls and Kittens, make 3 in a row of your own and collect all the cards on the board, reset it, and go again until all the cards are played and someone totals up more. Pairs of Animalia, which is just cards being drawn, passed around, scoring pairs, and going until someone has the most points. 3 words on each card. Make a sentence that makes sense, the longest string of words that you can. Lonely Planets, again, going to be surrounding it with other things so that it's not lonely, and I believe set collection style vibe. Contextual, another word-based game. Penguin, a 5 iceberg-based card game that you flip over and try to stay afloat on. Propertyopoly, I'm leaving that one alone. Not Quite Heroes, Secret BFF, and, well, that's it. Packaging, right? So that's everything. That's all you get, print and plays. And if you love any of these things, I think I covered their previous one with Kittens Love Sushi and Campfire. I kind of remember those ones. But that's it. Just light little card games from Joshua Mason, and it's funded. Now we have Timeless Journeys, the Italian Grand Tour, a relaunch, which is already almost at 200% as a relaunch. And again, just reminds me that when I see these crowdfunding projects cancel and then come back, sometimes they just kill it, and there's no rhyme or reason why they didn't succeed the first time necessarily, because sometimes they don't even change a significant amount. Anyway, side note there, but what you're doing in this sort of deck builder action selection movement on a map game is you play one of your action cards from your hand that indicates what you're doing, i.e. potentially moving from space to space in Italy. But then there's going to be a whole bunch of these sideboards that you're going to be able to interact with. Exploration, making pen pals, trading addresses, city exploration, talk to a local, all of these sorts of things. And the tricky part is this action phase actually goes until everybody plays 5 of these cards. And the twist on this game is that above those 5 cards, there are going to be multiple different actions within each suit, if you will. And the nice thing about that is that every time you play one of a similar suit of those 5 that you get in a round, it activates all of the other ones to give you the combo chaining to do multiple actions and events along those lines. The tricky part, though, is in the next phase of things. When you are doing the deck building style, you then only get to choose from depending on the number of the different suits you laid down. So more comboing, less suits played, less better cards acquired in order to balance and to mitigate that. 5 rounds until the game ends as you gather points in these various ways. You're going to be filling up journals, set collecting, route building, and planning as you're going along to gather all of these ways to score points, meeting famous travelers, corresponding with address and letter tokens in order to get more points, and encounter these celebrity travelers of famous repute to get more points along the way. $75 gets you deluxeified everything, and don't worry, just like with a lot of other crowdfunding projects, we've already included 3 expansions for your expansion of a game you're not even sure you know yet. But advanced action cards are going to be available, a little promo pack here for 45 euros. How to play, giving you all of the actions that I just mentioned of ways of scoring and mitigating. and then a little bit of all the preview content that you can muster. Rulebook's there, solo mode is there, collector's edition to upgrade it even if you don't know it. And again, all of this box stuff. I actually like the box stuff being more towards the bottom this time. So there you go. That's everything. And a year from now, you might have a copy of it. Now, Biome Blitz. Both of these are sort of my sleeper ones to watch out for. I like the idea of Biome Blitz. It's not going to be good for people, though, because it's going to be a little too take that, and it's a little bit of dice luck mitigation that's not probably going to be your favorite. But what you're doing here, skip the preview paid videos for a second, is you are slowly gathering from one of three market rows, either resources, animals, or environments. And the resources are just sort of a ticket to ride. Grab a wild, that's the only one you can do. Grab from anything else of the three market cards face up, grab two of them. Or from the top of the deck, you can draw any combination of that. Then you're going to use those to pay the cost in the upper right-hand corner of these animal cards to pay them to be on your team. And if you can get 5 of them, you win. Or if you get 30 points, you win. And that might sound super simple because when you summon them, the upper left-hand corner is how many points you get for them. But that's only 2 of the 3 things you can do. Well, you can still get the environment cards, which give you extra bonuses, but no victory points to mitigate and to help boost your team in some ways. But the last element of things is the head-to-head element. Because what you're doing in the head-to-head element is you actually choose one of your animals, because in the lower right-hand corner, each of your animals have attack and defense. You then roll a die, both as the attacker and the defender, based on those stats. Add the die roll to those stats with any other mitigation from the environments and abilities that all of these animals have as a unique asymmetric bonus, and then see who wins. And why you want to do that is, well, if you win, you get the victory points that were on your opponent's animal. And if you win, you also knock out the opponent's animal from being on their team in the first place, thus making their 5-animal win condition victory style completely kaput. But if you lose, you just don't get anything. So you got to be careful because that's your one action on the turn. This is a nice little game. It'd be great for my kids. And I just don't think it's going to be great for you guys necessarily unless you really like some take that and dice rolling. So it's up my vibe, but it might be not up for yours. So you just need to be aware of that. And we're getting a little bit of stretch goals here for gameplay content. So there you frickin' go. And that's why it's on the list for me. And that's what we got going on this week. Okay, we're done. Crowdfunding roundup over, folks. As always, let me know what you think. Let me know where your head's at. And let me know because October is coming. Like I said, legit, this video could be easily the longest video that I've ever done in the upcoming October crowdfundings. And if you missed my video of all the new stuff that was recently sent to me, that didn't even include probably another half dozen that I couldn't even fit in that video that are also going to be coming out. And so I'm going to have to do like multi-game review videos in order to get them out in any sort of timely, shapely manner. Because otherwise I'll be doing like review videos like 3 a week for the next like 2 months. But we'll have some surprises along the way too. So White Castle Duel from this past week and Azure Moytura, like I said. So I can't ever pronounce that. Moytura. And then a bunch of other stuff. And I'm going to go play this right now. So peace out. See you later. Have a great freaking fantastic day. You guys got me here and I appreciate it. And have some fun.